The ship came down from the sky on a hot summer morning in 2047. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The massive vessel blocked out the sun as it slowly dropped toward the Nevada desert. Its shadow stretched for miles across the dry, cracked earth. Park stood perfectly still in his marine dress uniform. Sweat ran down his back, but he did not move. He had learned long ago how to ignore discomfort. 3 combat tour had taught him that lesson well. He watched the alien ship with steady eyes, his face showing nothing. Beside him stood Lieutenant from Korean Naval Intelligence. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had read every report about the aliens. She knew what they wanted. She knew what they had done to other worlds, but she kept her thoughts hidden behind a calm mask. The ship touched the ground with a deep rumble. Dust flew up in great clouds. When the dust settled, a door opened in the side of the vessel. Light poured out, bright and blue. The aliens walked out in a single line. They were tall, very tall. Each one stood over 7 feet with skin that looked like stone. Their faces had no noses, just flat spaces with small holes for breathing. Their eyes were black and empty, like the eyes of sharks. They wore armor that seemed to grow from their bodies, metal and flesh mixed together in a way that made stomach turn. These were the conquerors of 17 star systems, the masters of the galaxy. At the front walked their leader. Ambassador Torin was even taller than the others. His armor was covered in symbols that glowed with soft purple light. He moved with the slow confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Behind him marched 50 soldiers. They called them the Ironclad. They were the most feared warriors in known space. A group of human officials walked forward to meet them. Generals, politicians, diplomats, they had prepared for this moment for months. They had speeches ready. They had offers of friendship and trade. They believed in peace. Torin stopped in front of them and looked down. His black eyes moved slowly from face to face. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. A small device on his chest translated his words into English. "We are the Empire. We have come to accept your surrender." The humans looked at each other in confusion. General, the senior American officer, stepped forward. He was a big man with hair and a thick chest covered in medals. "Ambassador, we welcome you to Earth. We hope to establish peaceful relations between our peoples. We have much to offer each other." Torin made a sound that might have been laughter. "You misunderstand, primitive. We do not negotiate with lesser species. Your world will become a resource tributary of the Empire. Your people will serve us. This is not a request. This is how things will be." Felt his hands tighten into fists. He forced them to relax. He had his orders, diplomacy first, dignity always, but something cold and hard was growing in his chest. He had met men like Torin before, not aliens, but men, bullies, tyrants, people who believed that strength gave them the right to take whatever they wanted. He had killed men like that. Moved slightly closer to him, she spoke without turning her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "Steady, Sergeant, not yet." Gave a tiny nod, "Not yet, but maybe soon." The negotiations continued for 3 days. The humans tried everything. They offered technology. They offered resources. They offered partnerships. They rejected all of it. They did not want partners. They wanted slaves. On the second night, found sitting alone outside the military camp. He was cleaning his combat knife, running a stone along the blade with slow, careful strokes. The knife was old. It had belonged to his father, who had been a soldier before him. It had tasted blood many times. "You should sleep," said. "Can't," replied. "Something bad is coming. I can feel it." Sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The desert night was cold and full of stars. Somewhere up there, among those tiny points of light, were the 17 worlds they had conquered. Billions of beings living as slaves. "What do you know about them?" asked. Was quiet for a moment. "They have never lost a war. In their entire history, going back thousands of years, no species has ever defeated them. They believe this makes them superior. They believe they have the right to rule." "Every bully believes that," said, "until someone teaches them different. They're stronger than us, faster. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their soldiers can survive wounds that would kill any human." Held up his knife. The blade caught the starlight. "Everything dies, Lieutenant, everything. You just have to know where to cut." On the morning of the 3rd day, they grew tired of human resistance. Torin announced that the time for talking was over. Earth would submit or be destroyed. There was no third option. General asked for more time. Torin refused. The American president, speaking through a video link, tried to appeal to reason. Torin laughed and ended the call. It was then that Commander decided to make an example. Was the leader of the ironclad soldiers. He was massive, even by standards. His armor was from dozens of battles. He had personally killed thousands of beings across a dozen worlds. He enjoyed his work. He had been watching the human soldiers for 3 days. They were small, weak. Their bodies were soft and breakable, but they stood straight and looked thee in the eye. This annoyed. Slaves should know their place. They should bow. They should tremble. These humans did neither. Decided to teach them a lesson. He chose the nearest human soldier, a compact man with a hard face and steady eyes, the one called. As walked toward him, his heavy feet cracking the ground, felt a strange calm settle over him. He had been waiting for this moment, not hopping for it, but expecting it. Men like always made the same mistake. They confused patience for weakness. They mistook silence for fear. Stopped in front of. He looked down at the human the way a man might look at an insect. Kneel, he commanded. Kneel before your masters. Did not move. His eyes stayed fixed forward. His breathing remained slow and even. Raised his armored fist. It was huge, covered in metal plates that could stop plasma fire. That fist had crushed skulls on 37 worlds. He swung it with all his strength. The blow connected with the side of his head. Blood exploded from a gash above his eye. The force should have killed him. It would have killed most beings in the galaxy. Staggered just one step, then he straightened. And he smiled. Had 1 second to realize he had made a terrible mistake. Then those 3 seconds began. Time slowed down. That was how it always felt for in moments like this. His instructors had called it combat time, when everything became clear and sharp, when the world moved like honey while he moved like lightning. Was still laughing. The sound came out slow and deep like a recording played at half speed. Violet blood dripped from the alien's armored fist. Blood, human blood. The commander thought he had just proven his superiority. He thought the human would fall, cry, beg. He was wrong. The first second began. His right hand moved on its own. 15 years of training had made the motion automatic. His fingers closed around the handle of his knife before his conscious mind even gave the order. The blade came free from its sheath with a soft whisper of steel against leather. The knife was beautiful in its simplicity. No alien technology, no fancy upgrades, just 7 inches of hardened steel that had been folded and sharpened by his father's hands. It was old. It was primitive by galactic standards, but it was also perfect for what came next. Saw the blade. His black eyes registered the movement, but his brain was slow. They were strong. They were tough, but they were not fast thinkers. They had never needed to be. Their armor protected them. Their size intimidated enemies. They had conquered worlds by simply being bigger and harder to kill than everyone else. They had never fought humans before. The second began. Stepped forward, not backward, not sideways, forward into space. So close that the alien's size became a weakness instead of a strength. Big creatures had trouble with things that got too close. They needed room to swing, room to stomp, room to crush. Gave him no room. His left hand shot up and grabbed one of the tubes that ran along his neck. These tubes carried blood and nutrients to the brain. They were protected by armor plates, but between the plates were tiny gaps, spaces where the metal could not cover. Had spent 3 days studying the soldiers, watching how they moved, looking for weaknesses. He had found several. Tried to pull back, tried to raise his arms, but was already inside his guard. The human's grip on the tube was like iron. The alien could not shake him loose without tearing his own flesh. Confusion filled his black eyes. This was not how things were supposed to happen. Primitives were supposed to run. They were supposed to die easily. They were not supposed to attack. The third second began. His knife hand came up in a tight arc. He did not aim for the chest. The armor there was too thick. He did not aim for the throat. The plates there overlapped. He aimed for the one spot that no armor could protect, the soft space beneath the jaw where the translator device hung. The blade entered his flesh like a key sliding into a lock. It punched through skin and muscle. It scraped past bone. It kept going up and up through the soft palate and into the brain case above. Twisted the knife, hard then harder. The sound was wet and terrible. Skull did not just crack. The top of his head separated from the rest of him. Bone and brain and violet blood sprayed outward in a fountain of gore. Some of it splashed across his face. He did not blink. 3 seconds, that was all it took. His body stood frozen for a moment. Then it fell backward like a cut tree. The ground shook when it hit. The other soldiers stared in shock. Their commander, their undefeated champion, dead, killed by a creature half his size in less time than it took to draw a breath. Silence fell across the diplomatic zone. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the soft drip of blood falling from his knife onto the desert sand. Was the first to break the silence. She stepped forward, her voice calm and cold. He struck first. Everyone here witnessed it. This was self-defense under both human and galactic law. Ambassador Torin's face twisted with rage. His skin flushed dark purple. His hands shook. "You dare," he screamed. "You dare attack you will all die for this. Every human on this planet will pay." Finally moved. He bent down and wiped his blade clean on his armor. Then he straightened and looked directly at Torin. His face showed nothing. No fear, no anger, no satisfaction, just empty calm. "He hit me first," said. His voice was flat. "I hit him back." Torin screamed orders in his own language. The translator could not keep up, but the meaning was clear. The ironclad soldiers began to move. Weapons appeared in their hands. Plasma rifles that could burn through steel. Energy blades that could cut a man in half. General shouted for everyone to stand down. His voice was lost in the chaos. Diplomats ran for cover. Scientists dove behind vehicles. The careful structure of first contact fell apart in seconds. But the Marines did not run. Looked left and right. His fellow soldiers stood firm. Sergeant Jinnah, Corporal Minyu, Private First Class Han, 20 others whose names he knew as well as his own. They had trained together, bled together. They were brothers and sisters in ways that civilians could never understand. None of them moved. Appeared at his shoulder. She had drawn her sidearm. It looked like a toy compared to the alien weapons pointed at them, but her hand was steady. "Orders, Sergeant?" she asked. Thought about it. They were outnumbered 6-1. The enemy had better weapons, better armor, better everything. By any reasonable measure, they were already dead. But reason had nothing to do with being a Marine. "We hold the line," said. "We buy time for the civilians to escape, and we make these bastards remember this day for the rest of their lives." Jinnah stepped up on his left side. She was a small woman with short hair and scars on her hands. She had lost her brother in the Pacific conflict 8 years ago. She had been looking for something to kill ever since. "Sounds good to me," she said. Minyu moved to his right. He was young, barely 23. His hands shook slightly as he raised his rifle, but he did not step back. "I always wanted to be famous," Minyu said. "Guess dying in the first alien war counts." Despite everything, almost smiled. These were his people, his family. They were going to die together, but they were going to die standing. Torin raised his hand. The ironclad soldiers aimed their weapons. 300 alien warriors against 53 humans. The math was simple. The result was certain. Or so they believed. They did not understand what they were facing. They had conquered worlds full of beings who surrendered when the odds turned against them. Beings who valued survival above all else. Beings who knew when they were beaten. Humans were different. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not accept impossible odds. Humans fought. They fought when they were outnumbered. They fought they fought when victory was impossible and death was certain. They fought because something deep in their blood refused to kneel, refused to break, refused to die quietly. Torin's hand dropped. The ironclad charged. And the Battle of Nevada began. The first wave of ironclad soldiers crashed into the human line like a wave hitting rocks. They expected the small creatures to scatter, to break, to run screaming into the desert where they could be hunted down one by one. The humans did not scatter. Sergeant Jinnah took point on the left side of the line. She had positioned her squad behind a row of military vehicles, not much cover against plasma weapons, but enough to slow down the first charge, enough to buy a few seconds. Seconds mattered in combat. Jinnah knew this better than anyone. The first ironclad to reach her position was a massive creature with red symbols painted on its armor. It raised its plasma rifle and fired. The shot burned through the air with a sound like tearing cloth. It missed Jinnah by inches and melted a hole in the truck behind her. She did not flinch. Her rifle came up and fired 3 rounds in quick succession. The bullets bounced off the alien's chest armor. Useless. But that was not where she was aiming. The 4th round caught the creature in its left eye. The black orb exploded. The ironclad screamed and stumbled. Jinnah was on it before it could recover. Her combat knife found the gap between its helmet and neck guard. She pushed the blade in deep, then twisted. Hot violet blood sprayed across her face. She did not care. "One down," she shouted. "Who wants to be next?" 2 more ironclad charged at her. She dropped to one knee and fired at their legs. The joints there had less armor. One of them fell, the other kept coming. It raised a massive blade and swung at her head. Jinnah rolled sideways. The blade cut through the air where she had been. She came up firing, round after round into the creature's face. It would not die, it kept coming. Blood poured from a dozen wounds, but it kept coming. This was the problem with they were hard to kill, so very hard to kill. A shape flew past Jinnah and slammed into the wounded ironclad. Private Han, the youngest member of the squad. She had a grenade in her hand. She shoved it into the gap Jinnah had opened in the alien's neck, then threw herself backward. The explosion was muffled by the creature's body, but it was enough. The ironclad's head vanished in a cloud of gore. Its body toppled forward and lay still. Pulled herself up, coughing blood. A piece of shrapnel had caught her in the side. She pressed one hand against the wound and picked up her rifle with the other. "I'm fine," she said when Jinnah moved toward her. "Keep fighting." On the right side of the line, Corporal Minyu was having the worst day of his life. 3 ironclad soldiers had broken through the initial defense and were pushing toward the civilian evacuation point. If they got past him, hundreds of people would die. Minyu planted himself in their path. His rifle was almost empty. His sidearm was somewhere in the dirt behind him. All he had was a combat knife and 23 years of refusing to give up. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on, you ugly bastards." The first ironclad reached him. It was twice his size. Its armor was covered in the blood of beings from a dozen worlds. It looked at Minyu the way a wolf looks at a rabbit. It swung its blade. Minyu dropped to the ground. The blade passed over his head. He rolled between the creature's legs and came up behind it. His knife found the back of its knee joint. The ironclad roared and fell to one knee. Minyu did not waste the opportunity. He jumped onto the creature's back and started stabbing. Again and again. Into every gap he could find, the ironclad thrashed and bucked. It tried to reach behind itself. Its claws scraped against Minyu's body armor. Blood flew everywhere. Some of it was his, most of it was not. The second ironclad grabbed Minyu and threw him against a wall. He felt ribs crack. Pain exploded through his body, but he forced himself to stand. He picked up a rock from the ground. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. "Still standing," he gasped. "Still fighting." The ironclad paused. It had never seen anything like this. The human was broken, bleeding, barely able to stand, but there was no fear in his eyes, no surrender, just cold, hard rage. For the first time in its life, the ironclad felt something strange, something it had no name for. It was the beginning of fear. At the center of the line, Park moved through the battle like a ghost. His knife was an extension of his arm. Every strike was perfect. Every cut found its target. He had killed 6 ironclad in the first 10 minutes. 7, 8. He did not count. Counting was for later. Now there was only the next enemy, the next gap in the armor, the next life to take. An ironclad commander saw him and charged. This one was smart. It did not try to grab him or crush him. It kept its distance and fired its plasma rifle in short bursts, trying to pin him down, trying to get a clean shot. Moved between the shots like water flowing between rocks. He had studied their weapons. Plasma rifles took 1.3 seconds to recharge between bursts. That was a lifetime in close combat. He closed the distance in 3 steps. The commander tried to bring its weapon around, too slow. Its blade opened its throat, violet blood sprayed in a wide arc. The commander fell, stepped over its body and kept moving. Fought beside him. She was not a Marine. Her training was different, but she was just as deadly in her own way. She used her small size to her advantage, slipping between enemies, striking at weak points, disappearing before they could catch her. "We're losing people," she said during a brief pause in the fighting. "Is down, Minyu is hurt, we can't keep this up." Nodded, he knew, the math had not changed. They were still outnumbered, but they had done something impossible. They had hurt made them bleed, made them afraid. That was worth something. How long until reinforcements arrive? He asked. 20 minutes, maybe less. 20 minutes, it might as well have been 20 years, but had learned long ago not to think about time in combat. You fought until you won or until you died. There was no middle ground. Then we hold for 20 minutes, he said. Simple as that. Looked at him, her face was covered in blood and dirt. Her uniform was torn, she was shaking with exhaustion, but she smiled. Simple, she agreed. Just hold the line against 300 alien warriors for 20 minutes, no problem. A roar went up from the forces. They were regrouping, gathering for another push. This time they would come with everything they had, no more testing, no more probing attacks. They would crush the human line and end this embarrassment once and for all. Raised his knife. Around him, the surviving Marines formed up, Jinnah on his left, Minyu barely able to stand on his right, at his shoulder. Less than 30 humans still fighting, against more than 200. Remember this moment, said. His voice was calm, steady. Whatever happens next, remember that we stood here, that we did not run, that we showed the galaxy what humans are made of. The ironclad charged. The humans held. And somewhere in the distance, the sound of helicopters began to fill the air. The helicopters came over the mountains in a black swarm. Apache gunships, transport carriers, medical evacuation craft, more military power than had been gathered in one place since the last Great War. But they were still 10 minutes away. 10 minutes might as well be forever. The second charge hit the human line with terrible force, felt the impact through his entire body. An ironclad soldier slammed into him and drove him backward. His feet scraped across the sand. His shoulders hit something hard, a truck. The alien pressed down on him with its full weight. Could not breathe, the creature was crushing him. Its face was inches from his own. Black eyes stared into his with pure hatred. Its breath smelled like copper and rot. Die, it growled, die like all the others. His arms were pinned. His knife was trapped against his side. He could not move, could not fight. For a moment he felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. Then he remembered his father's words. The old man had been a soldier too. He had fought in 3 wars before his heart finally gave out. On his deathbed, he had held his hand and spoken his last lesson. Fear is a gift, his father had said. It tells you that you are still alive, use it, let it make you stronger. Stopped struggling. He went limp. The ironclad pressed harder, thinking it had won. Its grip loosened just slightly. That was enough. Twisted his body and brought his knee up hard into the gap between the alien's legs. There was soft flesh there, vulnerable flesh. The ironclad grunted in pain. Its grip loosened more. His knife hand came free. The blade punched into the alien's armpit where the armor plates did not overlap. He pushed it deep, twisted, pulled it out and stabbed again, and again, and again. The ironclad fell away from him. It tried to rise, did not give it the chance. He drove his blade into its eye and left it there. He stood up slowly. His body screamed with pain, something was broken in his chest, maybe several somethings, but he was still alive, still fighting. 20 meters away, Sergeant Jinnah was surrounded by 5 ironclad soldiers. She had run out of ammunition long ago. All she had left was her knife and her rage. She moved like a dancer, ducking and weaving between their attacks. She was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but she would not fall. Come on, she screamed at them. Is this all you have? My grandmother hits harder than you. An ironclad swung at her head. She ducked under the blow and drove her knife into its knee. The creature fell. She jumped onto its back and used it as a shield against the others. Their weapons could not fire without hitting their own soldier. Fought his way toward her. He killed 2 more ironclad on the way. His body moved on pure instinct now. His mind was empty, just the next enemy, the next cut, the next breath. He reached Jinnah's position and stood back to back with her. The remaining 3 ironclads circled them like wolves. Thanks for coming, Jinnah said. Her voice was weak. She had lost a lot of blood. Could not let you have all the fun, replied. They fought together, 2 humans against 3 alien warriors. The battle lasted less than a minute. When it was over, was the only one standing. Jinnah had collapsed after killing the last ironclad. She was still breathing, but barely. Gently lifted her and carried her behind the last line of vehicles. Other wounded Marines lay there. Minyu was among them. His face was pale, but his eyes were open. He managed a weak smile when he saw. Still alive, Minyu whispered. Told you I wanted to be famous. You are, said. Everyone will know your name after today. He set Jinnah down beside Minyu and turned back to the battle. There were still enemies to kill, still a line to hold. Found him near the center of the chaos. She was dragging an unconscious soldier toward safety. Her left arm hung at a strange angle, broken, but she did not stop moving. Air support in 3 minutes, she said. Can we last that long? Looked around. Less than 20 Marines were still fighting. They had lost over 100 soldiers, but they still had more than enough to finish the job. Ambassador Torin was screaming orders from behind his bodyguards. His face was purple with rage. He wanted every human dead. Now. We will find out, said. The final charge came. Every remaining ironclad soldier rushed forward at once. A wall of flesh and gleaming armor. The ground shook under their feet. Their war cries filled the air. The humans did not run. They formed a circle, back to back, shoulder to shoulder, the living protecting the wounded, those who could still fight raising their weapons, those who could not finding the strength to try anyway. Stood at the front. His knife was dull now, covered in dried blood. His arms felt like lead. His vision was starting to blur, but he would not fall, not while he could still draw breath. For Earth, he said quietly. The words spread through the survivors, a whisper at first, then louder, then a roar. For Earth. The ironclad hit them like a tidal wave. Bodies flew, blood sprayed, the circle bent, buckled, but did not break. Lost track of time, lost track of everything except the enemy in front of him. He killed, and killed, and killed. His body was covered in wounds, some were deep. He did not feel them. He felt nothing except the burning need to keep fighting. Then the helicopters arrived. The first Apache gunship came screaming over the battlefield at 200 miles per hour. Its chain gun opened fire. 30-millimeter rounds tore through ironclad armor like paper. The aliens had never faced human military technology at its full power. Their plasma rifles could not track the fast-moving aircraft. Their armor was designed to stop energy weapons, not explosive shells. They died by the dozens, by the scores. More helicopters followed. Transport ships dropped fresh troops. Medics ran toward the wounded. The tide of battle turned in an instant. Ambassador Torin watched in disbelief. This was not possible. They had conquered 37 worlds. They had never been defeated. They had never retreated. They were the masters of the galaxy. But the humans were pushing them back, killing them, winning. Fall back, Torin screamed. Fall back to the ship. The surviving ironclad soldiers obeyed. They ran. For the first time in their species' history, warriors ran from an enemy. They abandoned their dead. They abandoned their wounded. They thought only of escape. Watch them go. His knife finally fell from his fingers. His legs gave out. He dropped to his knees in the blood-soaked sand. Appeared beside him. She was crying. He had never seen her cry before. We won, she said. We won. He looked up at the sky. The ship was rising, fleeing, running away from Earth as fast as its engines could carry it. Yes, he said softly. We won. Then he fell forward into the darkness. Park woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. White walls, soft beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. For a moment he thought he was dead. Then the pain hit him and he knew he was very much alive. His body was wrapped in bandages. Tubes ran into his arms. A machine breathed for him. He had 17 broken bones, 4 cracked ribs, a punctured lung, and more cuts than the doctors had bothered to count. By all rights, he should have been dead 10 times over. But he was not dead. He was alive, and so were most of his people. The door opened, walked in. Her arm was in a sling, but otherwise she looked healthy. Clean uniform, hair pulled back, eyes sharp and alert. She carried a tablet computer in her good hand. You look terrible, she said. Feel terrible, replied. His voice was rough, weak. The others. Sat down beside his bed. 23 survivors out of 53. Jinnah will live, but she lost her left leg below the knee. Minyu is in critical condition, but the doctors think he will make it. Private Hand died on the battlefield. She was 20 years old. Closed his eyes, 23 out of 53. Almost half his people gone. Good soldiers, good friends, they had died standing. Fighting, but they had still died. What about the... Pulled up something on her tablet. Ambassador Torin fled back to the... His ship was carrying fewer than 60 survivors out of over 300 ironclad soldiers. He transmitted a message to the Galactic Union before leaving Earth system. She showed him the tablet. The message was short, just a few lines translated from the language. Classification error. Species 7423 is not primitive. Recommend immediate reclassification. Recommend no further contact. Recommend quarantine. Read the words twice. Then he laughed. It hurt. Everything hurt, but he laughed anyway. They are afraid of us, he said. The mighty empire is afraid of humans. They should be, replied. We killed 240 of their best warriors, with 53 Marines and a handful of support staff. They have never lost like that before. Never. Over the next few weeks, the full impact of the Battle of Nevada became clear. The message had spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speed. Every species in the Galactic Union had heard about what happened on Earth. The primitives had beaten the conquerors. The weak had defeated the strong. For the first time in galactic history, the order of things had changed. Some species were afraid. They had heard stories about humans before, about their wars, their violence, their refusal to surrender even when victory was impossible. Now those stories seemed less like exaggeration and more like warnings. Other species were hopeful. They had lived under rule for centuries. They had forgotten what it meant to fight back. But the humans had shown them something they had lost long ago. Courage was released from the hospital 2 months after the battle. He returned to active duty 1 month after that. The military tried to give him a medal. He refused. He did not want recognition. He did not want fame. He just wanted to keep doing his job. A reporter managed to catch him outside his base one morning. She was a young woman with bright eyes and too many questions. She asked how he felt about becoming humanity's first warrior against an alien empire. Looked at her for a long moment, then he shrugged. He hit me first, he said. I hit him back. That was all. He walked away and left her standing there with her mouth open. Did not return to her old position. The governments of Earth created a new organization called the Threat Assessment Division. Its job was to study alien species and prepare humanity for future encounters. Was put in charge. Her first report was sent to every government on Earth. The recommendations were simple and clear. We will not seek war, we will not start conflicts, but we will finish them. Every species in this galaxy must understand, humanity does not kneel. Those words became the foundation of human policy for the next 100 years. 50 years after the Battle of Nevada, Earth applied for membership in the Galactic Union. The application was controversial. Some species voted against it. They remembered what humans had done to they feared what humans might do to them. But most species voted yes. They had learned something important over the past 5 decades. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also fair. They kept their promises. They protected their allies. They did not conquer. They did not enslave. They just refused to be conquered themselves. The ceremony was held on a space station orbiting Earth. Delegates from 100 species gathered to welcome humanity into the galactic community. Ambassador led the human delegation. She was old now, her hair and her face lined with age, but her eyes were still sharp. Her voice was still strong. We come in peace, she said to the assembly. We offer friendship to all who want it, but we also make one thing clear. Attack us and we will defend ourselves, threaten our homes and we will respond. We are humans. We do not start fights, but we finish them. The chamber was silent. Then slowly the delegates began to applaud, first a few, then more, then all of them. In the back of the room, an old man watched the ceremony with quiet pride. Park was retired now. His body was too broken for active duty, but he had come to see this moment, the moment when humanity took its place among the stars. He thought about who had died so young, about Minu, who still walked with a limp from wounds that never fully healed, about Jinnah, who had learned to run again on a prosthetic leg and now trained the next generation of soldiers. They had paid for this moment, paid with blood and pain and lives cut short, but they had bought something precious, a future where humans stood tall, where Earth was free, where no alien would ever again look at humanity and see prey. After the ceremony, a young delegate from an alien species approached him. The creature was small and blue, with huge eyes and delicate fingers. It looked up with an expression he could not read. You are the one, it said, the human who killed, who started everything. Nodded slowly, I am. We have a saying now among my people. It is taught to all our children. Perhaps you would like to hear it. Go ahead. The alien's translator hummed for a moment, then it spoke. Never strike a human, not first, not ever, because they do not understand when they are supposed to die. Was quiet for a long moment. Then, for the first time in 50 years, he smiled. That sounds about right, he said. He turned and walked away. Behind him, the stars stretched out in endless patterns of light. A whole galaxy waited out there, full of wonders, full of dangers, full of species who now knew the truth about humanity. They were small, they were soft, they were fragile compared to the great empires of space. But they did not kneel. And they never would.